give a toast on the feast day. Eat that, we drink good, let it replay. Bring it back to the holy day. In Babylon, where we celebrate the Lord's day.
Can't tell me nothing about life if you don't know pain. How you gonna try to coach if you don't know the game? You gon' get on the field and pick the wrong plays. Instead of seeking help, you wanna do your own thing.
A little bit is the love and makes love. That's why I'm giving you all of my love, girl.
Thought I knew love, but you redefined it. Took me a while, but indeed I finally found it. Kisses and hugs keeping me reminded. Fake love in the past had me blinded.
So you can't cancel me cause I don't want the fame. I just wanna wake up my people and break the chain.
You just wanna do what you feel, yeah. Because you're living in the lust of your flesh.
The fear of God is knowledge, but fools despise instruction. To need a Bible college for wisdom, the Holy Spirit instructs me. Sucklers need milk, they can't digest. Just unlearn, so they misinterpret John 3:16. Saying Christ died for all, but everybody don't need saving. Deliverance is the essence of our eternal salvation.
Got your life out here chasing a bag in these streets. Yeah, I've seen it happen before, so I suggest that you take it from me.
Cause you ain't Superman, you can't dodge bullets. The fans and snitches, they ain't gon' let you keep pushing.
So don't get tricked, got your life out here chasing a bag in these streets. Yeah.
I came up in the struggle, so trust I know how it is. Without intentions to bubble, got interrupted again. I was doing good, had to take a whole nother L. You rather lose your sack instead of getting indicted for a sale. I would never fail against negativity, I prevail. We living a good life, leap. We ain't worried about 12. When I parallel them further ahead, I excel. Everybody y'all think real, I look at them like squares. Rejecting your comparisons, sing your man, I bury you. Shaping my bishop of my so the tall bearers can carry them. Condemn fairy tale rappers in the lies they tell. I made it in the hood, I can do anything, it's a fail. Mama, thank you for them times that you paid my bail. Even though you knew I wasn't gonna change, get out and raise hell. Now all these young cats coming up think they gangsta as hell. I knowing that the life they living gon' have them dead in jail.
Don't get tricked, got your life out here chasing a bag in these streets. Yeah, I've seen it happen before, so I suggest that you take it from me.
Cause you ain't Superman, you can't dodge bullets. The fans and snitches, they ain't gon' let you keep pushing.
So don't get tricked, got your life out here chasing a bag in these streets. Yeah.
Money, 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 yeah, you know we got to have it. Everybody got needs and everybody got to have it. It's a million hustles, king, go ahead and choose one. Or maybe two, or three. You need that income, but don't be out here hustling for pennies and selling them dimes. Don't be a fool out here committing ridiculous crimes. You got kids and you got family, man, they life on the line. Whatever problem come up, handle it like Tyson the Prime. You a king black man, step up and prove that you won. She a queen black man, why don't we treat her like one? She ain't a dog black man, why do we beat her like one? I'ma stand for our unity, go hard till I'm done. You can't be asleep when it comes, gotta look out for the jail. Get out the bucket with crafts, make a positive impact. That strap don't make you know, man. How I grew up, we threw hands. Stop listening to these rap songs and use your brain, young man. Hey, come on, let's make a toast. Come on, let's make a toast. I give a toast on the feast days. Good, drink good, let it replay. We bring it back to the holy days. Babylon, where we celebrate the Lord's day. I give a toast on the feast day. Eat that, we drink good, let it replay. Bring it back to the holy day. Babylon, where we celebrate the Lord's day. I give a toast on the feast day to all my loved ones no longer here, they passed away. I give a toast on the feast day to all my saints that repented and that changed their ways. I give a toast on the feast day, cause we don't celebrate holidays on heathen ways. I give a toast on the feast day. I love that Passover lamb, I'ma clean the plate. Make sure the bread ain't got no leaven in it. symbolizing, reminiscing of how we stopped sinning. So many different occasions, Yahweh gave deliverance. Yeah, we remember the time, that's how we Thanksgiving. We hold a feast of dedication, I know wicked Christmas. Need to research what you celebrate, it's paganistic. I'm in the spirit on the holy days, I feel terrific. Only a glass or two of wine, so I don't feel eccentric. I give a toast on the feast days. Eat good, drink good, let it replay. We bring it back to the holy days. Babylon, where we celebrate the Lord's day. I give a toast on the feast days. Eat good, drink good, let it replay. Bring it back to the holy days. Babylon, where we celebrate the Lord's day.
Hey, you know ain't no falsing about it. Then I go hard for mine, so what you think when the feast is on the couch? And these three things so beautiful, you know I'm with the family. Ways from before became a distant memory. Family reunion every week, yeah, this is for the seven. How you love her, you don't keep the full command. Put down the things you did before, yeah, that's repent. We put the fridges on our garments, they can't stand. I'm like, who fly than me? Spirit get higher, like the Messiah trying to be. I beyond power me to sit by no peace. 7 month, 10th day, I feel free. My favorite feast, tabernacle, supposed to tend in the wilderness for a week. Make sure the ox got a bottle on ice. I treat my brothers like myself, with no worries for tomorrow. Today we live without a kill. Oh, praise the Most High, let's have a toast. Put your drinks in the hell. It's just a righteous
on the feast days. Eat good, drink good, let it replay. We bring it back to the holy days. Babylon, where we celebrate the Lord's day. I give a toast on the feast days. Eat good, drink good, let it replay. Bring it back to the holy days. Babylon, where we celebrate the Lord's day. Shalom, shalom. Shalom, family. If you haven't already, make sure to like the video and share, and you can also tag people by doing the @highlight feature and the water for everybody that's tuned in. If you already have liked the video, the water for that, make sure you also share. And you can do this sharing, you can do it individually through Messenger or just on your page. It's all appreciated. But the title for today is Nebuchadnezzar's Dream Breakdown. Brother Aaron, you got anything you want to say?
Yeah, Khan, I would just echo the same sentiments. Just make sure to like the video, share the video as well, so it can be circulated, so more and more people can receive the same edification. And also make sure to use the @highlight feature so you can literally tag everybody on your friends list, right? But yeah, I can end it with that, and I'll pass it back to you, brother.
Khan, the water. So like I mentioned in one of the comments, if y'all see, I had some laughing emojis behind it, but very serious. This is the perfect lesson to tag somebody in that is an atheist, that don't believe in the Bible, because today what we're going to do is analyze a prophecy that was prophesied thousands of years ago and see how this prophecy unfolded throughout the years by going into history and breaking down this dream that Nebuchadnezzar had. So we'll go ahead and get it started. Brother, if you could grab Daniel chapter 2, verses 1 through 3.
Khan. Can you see my screen?
Khan.
All praises. All right, so this is the book of Daniel, chapter 2, starting at verse 1. And in the second year of the reign of Nebuchadnezzar dreamed dreams, wherewith his spirit was troubled, and his sleep brake from him. Then the king commanded to call the magicians and astrologers and the sorcerers and the Chaldeans for to show the king his dreams. So they came and stood before the king. And the king said unto them, I have dreamed a dream, and my spirit was troubled to know the dream.
Khan. So we see, right now we're just reading these first 3 verses to get the premise of what's going on. This king
Nebuchadnezzar had a dream, and he wanted to know the meaning, and he also wanted whoever he called to actually tell him the dream that he dreamed. He wasn't going to tell them the content of the dream. He wanted, for some reason, in some way, for them to be able to know what he dreamed about and then interpret it. What eventually happens is everybody in that kingdom, nobody in that kingdom, none of the wise people, the magicians, astrologers, nobody could interpret the dream. So we have the brother Daniel, who is actually asked to come in front of the king, and he's actually going to be able to give the king the vision. Brother, drop down to verses 30 through 36.
This is verse 30 of Daniel 2. But as for me, this secret is not revealed to me for any wisdom that I have more than any living, but for their sakes that shall make known the interpretation to the king, and that thou mightest know the thoughts of thy heart. Thou, O king, sawest, and behold, a great image. This great image, whose brightness was excellent, stood before thee, and the form thereof was terrible. This image's head was of fine gold, his breasts and his arms of silver, his belly and his thighs of brass, his legs of iron, his feet part of iron and part of clay. It's like his feet part of iron, yeah, I had it right, and part of clay. Verse 34, thou sawest till that a stone was cut out without hands, which smote the image upon his feet that were of iron and clay, and brake them to pieces. Then was the iron, the clay, the brass, the silver, and the gold broken to pieces together, and became like the chaff of the summer threshing floors, and the wind carried them away, that no place was found for them. And the stone that smote the image became a great mountain and filled the whole earth. This is the dream, and we will tell the interpretation thereof before the king.
Khan. So this is just David actually telling the king what he dreamed about. And he was only able to do this by the Most High giving him the wisdom to know exactly what this king had dreamed about. He actually prayed to find out what it was. But we're going to continue going. Brother, grab verses 37 and 38.
And you said David, I know you meant Daniel, but just for the audience.
Salakia, the water.
Verse 37. Thou, O king, art a king of kings, for the God of heaven hath given thee a kingdom, power, and strength, and glory. And wheresoever the children of men dwell, the beasts of the field and the fowls of the heaven hath given into thine hand, and hath made thee ruler over them all. Thou art this head of gold.
Khan. So we see that the first part of this statue that we see, or that he sees, is actually the king, Nebuchadnezzar. So it says, thou, O king, art a king of kings, for the God of heaven hath given thee a kingdom, power, and strength, and glory. And wheresoever the children of men dwell, the beasts of the field and the fowls of the heaven have he given into thine hand, and have made thee ruler over them all. Thou art this head of gold. So, brother, grab the first piece of information that we have, and this is dealing with the Neo-Babylonian Empire, which Nebuchadnezzar was the king over. And when you look at this scripture in verse 37, it says that the God of heaven have given thee a kingdom, power, and strength, and glory. We're going to see what kind of glory this king actually had. And just read the first Neo-Babylonian Empire.
Khan. Neo-Babylonian Empire. A new line of kings established the Neo-Babylonian Empire, which lasted from 626 BC to 539 BC. The Neo-Babylonian Empire became the most powerful state in the world after defeating the Assyrians at Nineveh in 612 BC. Let me read the bottom.
Also read the next paragraph.
Khan. The Neo-Babylonian Empire enjoyed a period of cultural renaissance in the Near East. The Babylonians built many beautiful and lavish buildings and preserved statues and artworks from their earlier Babylonian Empire during the reign of King Nebuchadnezzar II.
Khan. So we see that it says that the Babylonians built many beautiful and lavish buildings and preserved statues and artworks from the earlier Babylonian Empire during the reign of King Nebuchadnezzar II. So this glory that he actually had, this had to do with that glory. They had these beautiful things. And this is why the head was a head of gold, because this kingdom was full of luxury. They had a lot of things that were of monetary value or were very luxurious. And so we're going to continue going. Brother, if you could grab verse 39.
This is verse 39. And after thee shall arise another kingdom inferior to thee, and another third kingdom of brass, which shall bear rule over all the earth.
Khan. So verse 39 says, and after thee shall arise another kingdom inferior to thee. So this kingdom that comes after the Babylonian Empire actually is weaker than the Babylonian Empire. So they're actually going to be able to overtake the Babylonian Empire. And we're going to see how and why they were able to in the form that they did, in the manner that they did. Brother, if you could bring that screenshot back up.
Okay.
And we're going to read Fall of Babylon.
This is the fall of Babylon. The Neo-Babylonian Empire, like the earlier Babylonia, was short-lived. In 539 BC, less than a century after its founding, the legendary Persian King Cyrus the Great conquered Babylon. The fall of Babylon was complete when the empire came under Persian control.
Khan. So, brother, bring up that next screenshot of the conquest of Babylon.
Khan. This is the conquest of Babylon. In 539 BCE, Cyrus invaded the Babylonian Empire, following the banks of the Genides, the Yala, on his way to Babylon. He allegedly dug canals to divert the river stream, making it easier to cross. Cyrus met and routed the Babylonian army in the battle near Opis, where the Yala flows into the Tigris. After this, the people of Sippar opened their gates to him without resistance. The Babylonian king, Nabonidus, fled, and Cyrus sent his servant Ugbaru, the governor of Gataim, to capture Babylon. Ugbaru captured the outer neighborhoods of Babylon, with only the temple district of Esagil remaining under Babylonian control. After 2 weeks, Cyrus was welcomed into Babylon with festivities.
Khan. So we see the wisdom that Cyrus actually used to overtake the kingdom of Babylon. It says that he allegedly dug canals to divert the river stream, making it easier to cross. Cyrus met and routed the Babylonian army in battle near Opis, where the Diyala flows into the Tigris. After this, the people of Sippar opened their gates to him without resistance. So he was able to walk in without a fight. So he outsmarted the Babylonians to be able to defeat them. So this shows this verse in verse 39 in Daniel chapter 2. It says, and after thee shall arise another kingdom inferior to thee. So they were able to overtake this kingdom that was mighty and way more powerful than they were. And this is how we see the scripture being fulfilled throughout history. And it's an amazing thing to see that the Most High was already, 10 steps ahead and able to give a vision to that king, to let him see a dream, even though he couldn't interpret it. But his servant Daniel, Yahweh's servant Daniel, was able to give him the interpretation of the dream and also knew the dream. Brother, we're gonna continue going forward. And let's go back to verse 39 again.
God.
Because this is where we see the third kingdom.
Verse 39. And after thee shall arise another kingdom inferior to thee, and another third kingdom of brass, which shall bear rule over all the earth.
Khan. And so I want y'all to just continue to remember that this third kingdom shall bear rule over all the earth. We'll get into that later on and why I mentioned that. Brother, go to verses 3 and 4 in Daniel chapter 8.
God. This is the book of Daniel, chapter 8, starting at verse 3. Then I lifted up mine eyes, and saw, and behold, there stood before the river a ram, which had 2 horns, and 2 horns were high, but one was higher than the other, and the higher came up last. I saw the ram pushing westward, and northward, and southward, so that no beast might stand before him, neither was there any that could deliver out of his hand. But he did according to his will, and became great.
Khan. This next kingdom is the Medo-Persians, the Medo-Persian Empire. And so when we look at it, says, then I lifted up mine eyes and saw, and behold, there stood before the river a ram, which had 2 horns. And the 2 horns were high, but one was higher than the other, and the higher came up last. So this ram is that kingdom. And those 2 horns is the Medes and the Persians. The Persians are symbolized by the one that's higher than the other because they were more powerful than the Medes. So it says, and the higher came up last. The Medes actually were established before the Persians were established, and they came together. It says, I saw the ram pushing westward and northward and southward, so that no beast might stand before him. Neither was there any that could deliver out of his hand, but he did according to his will and became great. So we see that they were able to do whatever they wanted to. Whatever was in front of them, that land that was in front of them, they were able to conquer. So, brother, go down to verses 5 through 7.
This is verse 5. And as I was considering, behold, an he-goat came from the west on the face of the whole earth, and touched not the ground. And the goat had a notable horn between his eyes. And he came to the ram that had 2 horns, which I had seen standing before the river, and ran unto him in the fury of his power. And I saw him come close unto the ram, and he was moved with choler against him, and smote the ram, and brake his 2 horns. And there was no power in the ram to stand before him. But he cast him down to the ground, and stamped upon him, and there was none that could deliver the ram out of his hand.
Khan. So this is the next kingdom that comes after the Medo-Persian kingdom. It says, and as I was considering, behold, a he-goat came from the west on the face of the whole earth, and touched not the ground. And the goat had a notable horn between his eyes. So when we look at this horn, this is talking about a ruler. And it says, and he came to the ram, or king, and he came to the ram that had 2 horns, which I had seen standing before the river, and ran unto him in the fury of his power. And I saw him come close unto the ram, and he was moved with choler against him, and smote the ram, and brake his 2 horns, and there was no power in the ram to stand before him. But he cast him down to the ground and stamped upon him, and there was none that could deliver the ram out of his hand. Brother, drop down to verses 20 and 21.
Con. Verse 20. The ram which thou sawest, having two horns, are the kings of Media and Persia. And the rough goat is the king of Grecia. And the great horn that is between his eyes is the first king.
So it's exactly what I said. You know, I'm not going and prophesying it myself and just thinking like, I think it's the Medo-Persians and this is the Greeks. No, it translates itself. It says the ram which thou sawest having two horns are the kings of Media and Persia. And the rough goat is the king of Grecia, and the great horn that is between his eyes is the first king. And it's just so beautiful that when you look at this from a historical perspective and you look at it from a biblical perspective, and it plays out exactly the way that it's stated, that's just a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful way to see that prophecy and that history marry itself. Brother, you said the brother sent you some audio. Con, you could play it.
Yeah, let me try to pull it up real quick. Okay. All right, so let me see.
And if it take a while, I mean, we can continue until you can get it.
Yeah, I got it here. Can you let me know if you can hear it though?
Con.
All right, I'm gonna start playing it.
Thou, O King, art a King of kings, for the God of heaven hath given thee a kingdom.
Can you hear that?
Con. Let me mute myself
Okay,
so we don't get no echo or nothing.
Con.
Thou, O King, art a King of kings, for the God of heaven hath given thee a kingdom, power, and strength, and glory. And wheresoever the children of men dwell, the beast of the field and the fowls of the heaven hath he given into thine hand, and hath made thee ruler over them all. Thou art this head of gold. And after thee shall arise another kingdom inferior to thee, and another third kingdom of brass, which shall bear rule over all the earth. And the fourth kingdom shall be strong as iron, for as much as iron breaketh in pieces and subdueth all things, and as iron that breaketh all these, shall it break in pieces and bruise. And whereas thou sawest the feet and toes, part of potter's clay, and part of iron, the kingdom shall be divided. But there shall be in it of the strength of the iron, for as much as thou sawest the iron mixed with miry clay. And as the toes of the feet were part of iron and part of clay, so the kingdom shall be partly strong and partly broken. And whereas thou sawest iron mixed with miry clay, they shall mingle themselves with the seed of men, but they shall not cleave one to another, even as iron is not mixed with clay. And in the days of these kings shall the God of heaven set up a kingdom which shall never be destroyed. And the kingdom shall not be left to other people, but it shall break in pieces and consume all these kingdoms, and it shall stand forever.
Whoa, wait, what? Did that just say, and the kingdom shall not be left to other people? It's because that kingdom is the kingdom of God that was promised to Israel. That's the reason why that verse says this. And so after the preceding kingdoms that was mentioned, the kingdom of God will be set up, which shall not be left to other people.
Con. The water brother Devon. That's a beautiful, beautiful insert to the lesson. Brother, if you could pull the article about Alexander the Great, and we're gonna look at this verse a little closer that we just read in verse 20 and 21. It says, the ram which thou sawest having two horns are the kings of Media and Persia, and the rough goat is the king of Grecia, and the great horn that is between his eyes is the first king. So this first king, this is who we're about to read about. This first king is actually Alexander the Great, or Alexander the Greek, or who we call Alexander the Freak, because he was a rumored homosexual. But yeah, brother, you could go ahead and read that article.
Khan, that was the last one, correct?
Khan, I think it's the Persian campaign. Is it?
Yeah,
is it
Khan.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Khan. All right, so this is the Persian campaigns. In 331 BCE, Alexander met King Darius III again on the battlefield at Gugumala, also called the Battle of Arbela, where once again, facing overwhelming numbers, he decisively defeated Darius III, who fled the field. Alexander then moved on to take Babylon and Susa, which surrendered unconditionally without resistance. In the winter of 330, Alexander marched toward Persepolis, meeting resistance at the Battle of the Persian Gates, defended by the hero Artaxerxes, 386 through 330 BCE, and his sister Utab, Aryobazan, at the head of the Persian troops. Alexander defeated this force and took Persepolis, which he then burned.
Khan. So we see just from this article alone that Alexander the Great had a great conquest. He was pretty much anything he wanted, he took it. And so I'm gonna refer back to verse 39 in Daniel 2.
God.
You could pull that up, because I said earlier, and I was, talking about how this person that was going to be in this kingdom would have rule over all the earth. It says, after thee shall arise another kingdom inferior to thee, and another third kingdom of brass, which shall bear rule over all the earth. And so this was this third kingdom, which was the Greek empire, and it was led by Alexander the Great. Brother, grab First Maccabees, chapter 1, verses 1 through 4.
First Maccabees chapter 1 and verse 1 through 4.
Con.
It's the book of First Maccabees chapter 1, starting at verse 1. And it happened after that Alexander, son of Philip, the Macedonian, who came out of the land of Kirim, had smitten Darius, king of the Persians and Medes, that he reigned in his stead, the first over Greece, and made many wars, and won many strongholds, and slew the kings of the earth, and went through to the ends of the earth, and took spoils of many nations, insomuch that the earth was quiet before him, whereupon he was exalted, and his heart was lifted up, and he gathered a mighty strong host, and ruled over countries, and nations, and kings, who became tributaries unto him.
Con. So we see in Daniel, it already prophesied that this king that was the king of Greece was going to rule over the entire earth. And it says in First Maccabees chapter 1, and this also gives credit to the Apocrypha, who some people don't agree with. They don't use it. They think it's pseudo, but we know that this book was actually in the King James Bible in the 1611. So it says, and it happened after that, Alexander, son of Philip, this is Alexander the Great, the Macedonian, who came out of the land of Chetam, had smitten Darius, king of the Persians and Medes, that he reigned in his stead, the first over Greece, and made many wars, and won many strongholds, and slew the kings of the earth, and went through to the ends of the earth, and took spoils of many nations, insomuch that the earth was quiet before him, whereupon he was exalted, and his heart was lifted up. So he was able to go from one end of the earth to the other end of the earth and just conquer every country and every land that he came in touch with, showing that this prophecy is being fulfilled that's in Daniel chapter 2, verse 39. Brother, go back to Daniel 2, and we'll read verses 40 through 43. And this is what was in the audio that we just got through playing. And this is going into the fourth kingdom.
You said verse 40 to 42?
40 through 43.
Come. This is Daniel chapter 2, starting at verse 40. And the fourth kingdom shall be strong as iron, for as much as iron breaketh in pieces, and subdueth all things, and as iron breaketh all these, shall it break in pieces and bruise. And whereas thou sawest the feet and toes, part of potter's clay, and part of iron, the kingdom shall be divided, but there shall be in it of the strength of the iron. For as much as thou sawest the iron mixed with ivory clay, and as the toes of the feet were part of iron and part of clay, so the kingdom shall be partly strong and partly broken. And whereas thou sawest iron mixed with miry clay, they shall mingle themselves with the seed of men, but they shall not cleave one to another, even as iron is not mixed with clay.
Khan, we think about iron and clay. Iron and clay isn't going to actually mix together. They're two different types of properties. Clay is not going to mix inside of iron. It's just no way it's going to happen. The closest thing you're going to get that iron, and you'll be able to put that clay around it and kind of mold it to make it stay and hold, but it's not going to mix. So this is showing the strength of this kingdom. It's strong. It's partly strong because it's made of iron, but it's weak in the togetherness. That clay that's joined to it makes it weak, but they're strong as a whole. So it's going to be hard to actually take them down, but that don't mean they're going to stay together. They actually going to part. They're going to split. So when we look at let me go back to that scripture, Daniel 2. It says, "In the fourth kingdom shall be strong as iron, for as much as iron breaketh in pieces and subdueth all things, and as iron that breaketh all these, shall it break in pieces and bruise." And now this is talking about this fourth kingdom, the kingdom of Rome, is going to break into pieces. And so with it breaking into pieces, you got different countries that were brought out of the Roman Empire. These different European factions that came from it. France, you have America, you have Great Britain, you have a lot of countries that came out of the Roman Empire. Same people. It says, "And whereas thou sawest the feet and toes, part of potter's clay and part of iron, the kingdom shall be divided, but there shall be in it of the strength of the iron. For as much as thou sawest the iron mixed with miry clay, and as the toes of the feet were part of iron and part of clay, so the kingdom shall be partly strong and partly broken. And whereas thou sawest iron mixed with miry clay, they shall mingle themselves with the seed of men, but they shall not cleave one to another, even as iron is not mixed with clay." One thing we know about these people, they go and they conquer every land they go into, and they take people captive, and they rape, and they rob. This is what it's talking about, them mixing seed with men. So, brother, grab me 1 Maccabees 8, verses 1 through 3.
Come. It's the book of 1 Maccabees. Slovakia. For some reason. God, it's the book of 1 Maccabees, chapter. God, let me just pull it up on my phone. Slovakia. God, it's the book of Maccabees, chapter 8, starting at verse 1. Now Judas had heard of the Romans, that they were mighty and valiant men, and such as would lovingly accept all that joined themselves unto them, and make a league of amity with all that came unto them, and that they were men of great valor. It was told him also of their wars and noble acts which they had done among the Galatians, and how they had conquered them and brought them under tribute, and what they had done in the country of Spain for the winning of the mines of the silver and gold which is there.
Yeah. So we see that, yeah, it was just 1 through 3 out.
Okay, con.
And so we see, like right here, we see that they went wherever they went, they conquered and they mixed in with the people. This is why we have what we call tares, people that may be of a certain origin or seem that they're of a certain origin, where we may think that they're Israelites and they may not be Israelites, because these people went and laid their seeds inside of the people of those nations. So now you have people that we won't know until Yahushua comes back if they're actually Israelites or not, when he separates the sheep from the goat. But brother, grab Daniel 7, 23 and 24.
Con. This is the book of Daniel, chapter 7, starting at verse 23. Thus he said, the fourth beast shall be the fourth kingdom upon earth. It shall be diverse from all kingdoms, and shall devour the whole earth, and shall tread it down, and break it in pieces. And the 10 horns out of this kingdom are 10 kings that shall arise, and another shall rise after them, and he shall be diverse from the first, and he shall subdue 3 kings.
So it says the fourth beast shall be the fourth kingdom upon the earth. We already established this is the Roman Empire. Say, which shall be diverse from all kingdoms, and shall devour the whole earth, and shall tread it down and break it in pieces. And the 10 horns out of this kingdom are 10 kings that shall arise, and another shall rise after them, and he shall be diverse from the first, and he shall subdue 3 kings. So these 10 horns that come out of this kingdom are those different European nations, or the EU, NATO. But you also have, it says that there's going to be and another shall rise after them. That one should rise after these 10 kings, and he's going to be diverse from the first, and he shall subdue 3 kings. Brother, jump down to verse 7 and 8.
In 7.
Con, you can you know what? Just read verse 8.
Con. This is the book of Daniel, chapter 7 and verse 8. I considered the horns, and behold, there came up among them another little horn, before whom there were 3 of the first horns plucked up by the roots. And behold, in this horn were eyes like the eyes of man, and a mouth speaking great things.
The water. So it says, I considered the horns, and behold, there came up among them another little horn, before whom there were 3 of the first horns plucked up by the roots. This little horn is the United States of America. These 3 other horns are France, Britain, and Spain. And we're going to get into some information that's going to show exactly why I say that it's France, Britain, and Spain. It says, behold, in this horn were eyes like the eyes of man, and a mouth speaking great things. When you look at, a mouth speaking great things, or eyes of a man, it's talking about legislative things, like laws being pushed out, because it's a mouth speaking great things. They're able to rule the land with whatever things that they put in place. Like we have the Constitution, we have these amendments, we have these laws that we have to go by in order to function in this society and in this country. Brother, if you could pull that article up.
Gone. Is it how did the United States become a global power?
Con. And we're gonna see why this prophecy in Daniel 7, where it says in verse 8, it says another little horn, before whom there were 3 of the first horns plucked up by the roots, and behold, in this horn were eyes like the eyes of man, and the mouth speaking great things.
Once again, this is how did the United States become a global power? And let's see. All right, so it says, with the world's largest economy, hundreds of overseas military bases, and leadership positions in various international institutions, the United States is an undeniable global power. But this was not always the case. For much of the country's history, presidents shielded the nation from international affairs. The first U.S. president, George Washington, declared his farewell address, "It is our true policy to steer clear of permanent alliance with any portion of the foreign world." In particular, he feared the consequences of involving the United States in Europe's great power conflicts. Instead, early American leaders focused on developing the young nation's economy, expanding domestic territory, and getting Europe's imperial powers to withdraw from the Western Hemisphere. In their worldview, the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans served not as barriers to international leadership, but rather as invaluable buffers that would allow the country to grow free of foreign interference. You want the quote read also?
Nah.
Right. Continuing on, it says, and indeed, the United States grew. Through negotiation, purchase, conflict, and conquest, the country more than tripled in size between 1783 and 1853. And this is an illustration of it. Continuing on, it says, its economy took off after the Civil War. Between 1865 and 1890, coal production rose by 800% and railway track mileage by 567%. By the middle of the 1880s, the United States had surpassed Britain as the world's leading producer of manufactured goods and steel. Yet, despite their growing wealth, Americans still steered clear of foreign entanglement. So, when did the United States begin to take a more active role in affairs beyond its shores? This lesson examines 3 wars between 1898 and 1945 that transformed the United States into a preeminent global power. The Spanish-American War. Let's go back to the early 1800s, when the United States was still a young and vulnerable country that faced threats from far wealthier and militarily superior European empires. The British, the French, and Spanish all controlled territory in the region, from which they had profited immensely. This European competition troubled U.S. presidents who viewed the Americas as their backyard and rightful sphere of influence. In 1823, President James Monroe warned Europe's empires not to meddle in the region. Any further colonization would be viewed as a hostile act against the United States. However, the so-called Monroe Doctrine, although bold, was largely dismissed by Europeans as the United States lacked the ability to enforce its threats. In 1820, the United States accounted for under 2% of global gross domestic product, GDP. Today, the country makes up nearly a quarter of the world's economy. Slowly but surely, this power dynamic shifted throughout the 19th century. National independence movements expelled Europe's empires from their colonies in the region. Meanwhile, Technological innovations such as steamboats, passenger trains, and factory machines transformed the United States from an agrarian country to an industrial one and produced newfound prosperity that enabled U.S. expansion across North America. Continuing on, with this burgeoning power, the United States began to look beyond its shores. In 1853, American Commodore Matthew Perry sailed a contingent of the U.S. Navy to Japan, where he succeeded in opening diplomatic and trading relations after threatening to attack the island nation, which had been largely closed off to the Western world for the previous 200 years. In between 1856 and 1863, the United States acquired its first overseas territories, a collection of 59 small, uninhabited islands in the Caribbean Sea and Pacific Ocean. Business interests in those islands, guano, also known unceremoniously as seabird poop, drove this offshore expansion. The resource functioned as a valuable natural fertilizer for farmers to use on their nutrient depleted soils.
And I'll pick up right here and read the rest of this. It says, if the Guano Islands represented the United States' first step toward overseas expansion, then the Spanish-American War of 1898 served as the country's first giant leap toward global ambitions. Over the course of the 1890s, influential Americans began to call for the United States to acquire geopolitical influence commensurate with its economic strength. As one sign of this stirring ambition, Congress began to approve the construction of battleships, vessels capable of taking on the fleets of other great powers. The United States put these new warships to use in 1898, launching a war to expel Spain from Cuba. The exact causes of the Spanish-American War are still in dispute. At the time, certain American leaders justified their war efforts by pointing to the explosion of a warship, the USS Maine, which they initially, but almost certainly incorrectly, attributed to Spanish malfeasance. Others argued the United States had a responsibility to support Cuban revolutionaries who were rising up against their Spanish colonizers. Either way, by declaring war, the United States seized an opportunity to remove the last vestiges of the Spanish Empire from the Caribbean and the Pacific, and in so doing, cement American influence in the two regions. After just months of fighting, a defeated Spain agreed to leave Cuba and to cede to the United States other Caribbean and Pacific territories, including Guam, the Philippines, and Puerto Rico. That same year, the United States also annexed the independent country of Hawaii. And then it just gives a graph of population increasing or being, changed throughout time. It says, seemingly overnight, the United States came into control of far-flung lands and ruled over their populations. However, many residents of these new U.S. territories did not welcome occupation by a new power. Notably, the United States looked like a European empire in its relationship with its newly acquired territories. Residents of Cuba, Guam, Hawaii, the Philippines, and Puerto Rico lacked the same rights as citizens of the U.S. mainland, including voting representation in Congress. Meanwhile, the United States established military bases in those lands, setting up coaling stations for American merchants and warships, extracted economic concessions from local industries, and even tested experimental and often dangerous medical treatments on residents. A bloody insurgency against U.S. rule broke out in the Philippines, ultimately taking the lives of some 4,000 U.S. soldiers and hundreds of thousands of Filipinos. Not surprisingly, Salakia, those events spawned a potent political backlash, fueling the anti-imperialist movement and taking a toll on the enthusiasm of the American public for its new international involvements. Nonetheless, by the turn of the 20th century, the United States controlled territories spanning 10,000 miles from Puerto Rico to the Philippines. Its economy has surpassed the United Kingdom's to become the world's largest, supercharged by increased production of steel and the adoption of new sources of power like oil. It boasted a powerful and tested navy, which could defend U.S. interests both in the Americas and now further afield. Indeed, the United States sent over 1,000 Marines to Beijing in 1900 to help put down a domestic uprising that threatened U.S. commercial interests. However, quelling a peasant rebellion and defeating the already fading Spanish Empire would pale in comparison to the United States' overseas military commitment in just a matter of years. And the rest of this article just goes on to talk about the World War I and World War II. But we see that the article mentions Britain, Spain, and France, because where we live now in these 50 states, it wasn't always the people who are in control of it. They weren't always in control of it. The French owned part of it, and you see like imprints left in the South. New Orleans, for example, is a French-speaking state for the most part, and you have broken French, which is Cajun or Creole, and that's left. That thumbprint is left by the Spanish actually conquering that land, and those people still being there in that land. Then when you look at the West Coast, you see imprints of the Spanish conquering that area before America conquered them. So these are these three horns that we read about in Daniel chapter 2, verse 39. And we're going to continue going with Daniel 7, Salaki, in verses 23 and 24. And we're going to continue going forward since we have established that this horn that broke away from this Roman Empire is America. We're going to continue to read throughout the scriptures and see what happens with this horn, this little horn that raised up. Brother, if you could grab Revelation 17, verses 1 through 5.
Come on. It's the book of Revelation, chapter 17, starting at verse 1. And there came one of the seven angels, which had the seven vials, and talked with me, saying unto me, Come hither, I will show unto thee the judgment of the great whore that sitteth upon many waters, with whom the kings of the earth have committed fornication, and the inhabitants of the earth have been made drunk with the wine of her fornication. So he carried me away in the spirit into the wilderness. I saw a woman sit upon a scarlet-colored beast, full of names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns. And the woman was arrayed in purple and scarlet color, and decked with gold and precious stones, and pearls, having the golden cup in her hand full of abominations and filthiness of her fornication. And upon her forehead was a name written, Mystery, Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and abominations of the earth.
So we see that this is America, Mystery Babylon the Great, the little horn sitting on top of the beast. There was a beast that we just read about in Daniel. This is that same little horn sitting on top of this beast. Brother, if you could give me Revelation 13 and 1.
Okay. It's the book of Revelation, chapter 13 and verse 1. And I stood upon the sand of the sea, and saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon his horns 10 crowns, and upon his heads the name of blasphemy.
And just making the correlation to show this is the same beast. Brother, grab Revelation 17, verses 12 and 13.
This is Revelation chapter 17 and verse 12. And the 10 horns which thou sawest are 10 kings, which have received no kingdom as yet, but receive power as kings 1 hour with the beast. These have one mind, and shall give their power and strength unto the beast.
So we already discussed that these 10 horns were the NATO, were NATO and EU. These are European nations that come from that Roman Empire. They've broken apart because that empire was clay mixed in with iron. And that couldn't actually mix. They were together and they were strong, but they weren't actually joined in together to stay together. That's why it was so easy for them to separate. But they're still strong individually. And they still have the same mind to accomplish the same purpose. They want to conquer and they want to rule. So it says, and the 10 horns which thou sawest are 10 kings, which have received no kingdom as yet, but receive power as kings 1 hour with the beast. That 1 hour is just symbolizing it's going to be a short time before what? Before this kingdom gets destroyed and the Most High comes and set up his kingdom. That's that stone that we read about in Daniel. Brother, if you could give me Luke 11 and 17.
Con. This is the book of Luke, chapter 11, verse 17. But he, knowing their thoughts, said unto them, every kingdom divided against itself is brought to desolation, and a house divided against a house fallen.
Con. So we see that, it's giving us this prophecy about any kingdom that's divided against itself. It can't stand. We just got through reading that article. We see how America has gone out into the world and they've conquered so many different lands and they've joined with these other nations. They send troops to other countries to fight wars that they have no business and nothing to do with. But because of commerce and other factors, they stick their nose into other people's business because they can do it. But it says, he, knowing their thoughts, said unto them, every kingdom divided against itself is brought to desolation, and a house divided against a house falleth. These feet that have iron and miry clay were always destined to deteriorate, to break apart, to never last long. And we're going to see something in Daniel 2, brother. If you could go to Daniel 2, verses 44 and 45. And see what actually happens after this kingdom gets destroyed.
It's the book of Daniel, chapter 2, starting at verse 44. And in the days of these kings shall the God of heaven set up a kingdom, which shall never be destroyed. And the kingdom shall not be left to other people, but it shall break in pieces and consume all these kingdoms, and it shall stand forever. For as much as thou sawest that the stone was cut out of the mountain without hands, that it break in pieces the iron, the brass, the clay, the silver, and the gold, the great God hath made known to the king which shall come to pass hereafter. And the dream is certain, and the interpretation thereof sure.
Con.
See that 46, right? Oh.
Nah, just 44 and 45, the water.
Con.
So it says the dream is certain and the interpretation thereof is sure. It's nothing nobody can do to stop what the Most High God has set in motion. We seen all the rest of this already came true. So it's one more thing that's left that has to happen. This should really be a faith builder for all of us to see all these different things that were prophesied to happen, and we could go into history and see proof of them happen. And for the ends of this prophecy to be the Most High sending his son to set up this messianic kingdom, this everlasting kingdom that nobody, no matter what they do, can destroy or take from us. So it says, and in the days of these kings shall the God set up a kingdom. So we know that it's going to happen during the time of the EU and the NATO being in rulership. It's going to happen in the time of this little horn, America, being on top. It's nowhere around it. So we know we're close to it. It says, which shall never be destroyed, and the kingdom shall not be left to other people, but it shall break in pieces and consume all these kingdoms, and it shall stand forever. And so when it says this kingdom, it shall never be destroyed, that makes you think about people say, they believe in this, like Yahushua is going to reign for 1,000 years, then the devil's coming back. And all praise to the Most High. Thursday, that's what I'm going into, is the 1,000-year reign. They don't understand that scripture is not saying that. it's going into something else, and we'll get into that. But it's a beautiful thing to know that the Most High God, he allowed these things to happen just so we can get to the point where his rulership will reign and we won't have to worry about the things that we go through. It says, for as much as thou sawest that the stone was cut out of the mountain without hands, and that it break in pieces the iron, the brass, the clay, the silver, and the gold. And so when it says cut out of the mountain, that mountain is symbolizing rulership. And it's a rulership that's not earthly. It's nothing that man has set up. That's why it says that it was made without hands, because it's a spiritual rulership that the Most High God actually ordained. It says that it break in pieces the iron, the brass, the clay, the silver, and the gold. The great God have made known to the king what shall come to pass hereafter, and the dream is certain, and the interpretation thereof is sure. Brother Aaron, read verse 35.
Okay. This is Daniel 2 and verse 35. Then was the iron, the clay, the brass, the silver, and the gold broken to pieces together, and became like the chaff of the summer threshing floors. And the wind carried them away, that no place was found for them. And the stone that smote the image became a great mountain, and filled the whole earth.
God, all praise to the Most High. That's his son's glory being shining all around the earth in that heavenly kingdom on earth. Brother, grab Acts chapter 1, verse 6.
Okay. It's the book of Acts, chapter 1 and verse 6. When they therefore were come together, they asked of him, saying, Lord, wilt thou at this time restore again the kingdom to Israel?
Con. So even then, his disciples who was walking with him, they knew that the kingdom actually was going to be on earth. This is why they're asking this. They knew about these things prophesied in Daniel also. They knew that there was, these different kingdoms were going to be set up, and that one day the Most High was going to destroy these kingdoms, and he was going to allow Yahushua to rule. So this is why they asked him when they therefore were come together, they asked of him, saying, Lord, wilt thou at this time restore again the kingdom to Israel? It wasn't time, but they knew that the kingdom would be on earth. They didn't ask him, hey, when are we going to get to go to heaven? Nah, they knew the kingdom was going to be on earth. Brother, grab Isaiah 49, verse 5 and 6.
No. This is the book of Isaiah, chapter 49, starting at verse 5. And now, saith Yahweh that formed me from the womb to be his servant, to bring Jacob again to him. Though Israel be not gathered, yet shall I be glorious in the eyes of Yahweh, and my God shall be my strength. And he said, It is a light thing that thou wouldest be my servant to raise up the tribes of Jacob, and to restore the preserved of Israel. I will also give thee for a light to the Gentiles, that thou mayest be my salvation unto the end of the earth.
This is something that we look forward to in this kingdom. The Most High actually restoring our people, pulling us out the ghettos, getting us off the drugs, getting us out the prisons. This is what the gospel is about. And this is what his kingdom to come is about. Brother, grab Isaiah 14, verse 1 through 3. And I'm going to reread that one part of this verse in verse 6. It says, I'll read it from the top. And he said, It is a light thing that thou shouldest be my servant to raise up the tribes of Jacob and to restore the preserved of Israel. So we know that it's talking about the northern and southern kingdom right here. It said, I will also give thee for a light to the Gentiles, that thou mayest be my salvation to the end of the earth. We don't teach that the Gentiles don't get no type of salvation. They get a type of salvation, but it's not the same type of salvation. And I mean, if you want to call it salvation, we're going to read in Isaiah 14 and see if y'all think this salvation.
This is the book of Isaiah, chapter 14, starting at verse 1. For Yahweh will have mercy on Jacob, and will yet choose Israel, and set them in their own land. And the strangers shall be joined with them, and they shall cleave to the house of Jacob. And the house, Slakia, and the people shall take them, and bring them to their place. And the house of Israel shall possess them in the land of Yahweh for servants and handmaids. And they shall take them captives, whose captives they were, and they shall rule over their oppressors. And it shall come to pass in the day that Yahweh shall give thee rest from thy sorrow, from thy fear, and from the hard bondage wherein thou wast made to serve.
Con. And it's going to be a beautiful thing on this earth when the Most High God puts his son in rulership and also puts his holy men of God in rulership. And the Gentiles will flock to our light and see, who the true children of the Most High God is. And brother, if you got anything you want to bring out, you can. I seen you got some precepts in the chat, and brother Pat got a precept in the chat because that was my last verse.
I mean, just to add on to what you said, how it's gonna be a beautiful thing during that time. That's that's going into when the world is finally gonna be restored in that rest, so to speak, because as you read in the book of Romans, the 8th chapter, it says that the creation it moans in pain, roughly paraphrasing, right? Because when you read, I believe it's in Proverbs where it says, when the wicked rule, the people mourn. And we understand that, Esau, them running the world and running things, everything is in chaos. There's war all over the place, there's destruction, the animals are going extinct. All of these things are going wrong. But when, the true people of God are placed back on high above all of the nations under the King Yahushua, things are going to be better on the earth. And one big reason is because a new standard is going to be implemented, and that's the law of God being the standard on the earth, right? And real quick, I'm gonna read. I'm trying to be quick. I'm gonna read this in
We got all night out.
God, this Isaiah 2. And so this Isaiah 2, I'm gonna start at 2. It says, "And it shall come to pass in the last days that the mountain of Yahweh's house shall be established in the top of the mountains, and shall be exalted above the hills, and all nations shall flow unto it." Right, and it's kind of speaking of what you were speaking about earlier concerning the mountain, right? But this particular mountain is speaking about the Lord's people, right? And it says the mountain of the Lord's house, and that's talking about Israel, his portion. But continuing on, this is verse 3. It says, "And many people shall go and say, Come ye, and let us go up to the mountain of Yahweh, to the house of the God of Jacob, and he will teach us of his ways, and we will walk in his paths. For out of Zion shall go forth the law and the word of Yahweh from Jerusalem." Right? And that's just, showing the fact that, the people or the other nations, they're going to have to come to us to learn what the standard is on the earth, right? Which is the law, statutes, and commandments. And we're going to be teaching them, right? And people, they're going to have to obey them, or else it's going, all hell is going to break loose for them, so to speak, right? But, this is going to be a good thing, because as we read in the scriptures, adherence to the law is a good thing. Let me bring this out. Let me see. I think maybe Proverbs. This is Proverbs 3 and 6. It says, "In all thy ways acknowledge him," talking about the Most High, "and he shall direct thy paths," talking about the Most High. "Be not wise in thine own eyes. Fear Yahweh and depart from evil." And we know evil, that's wickedness, that's sin, that's breaking the laws of God. Verse 8, "It shall be health to thy navel and marrow to thy bones." right? So departing from evil and fearing the Most High, which is keeping the law, statutes, and commandments, and obeying what He says to do, that's gonna be your health. That's gonna restore you, right? And so we're gonna be teaching the law, statutes, and commandments, and that's gonna heal, the world of its pains, because a lot of issues will, frankly, could be solved if the law of God was implemented. You know what I'm saying? And I'm gonna read this one last passage real quick. This is Psalm 67, and I'm gonna start at 1. It says, God be merciful unto us and bless us and cause His face to shine upon us, Salah, that thy way may be known upon earth, thy saving health among all nations. Right? And you have like unlearned individuals, they might try to use this to make this say something else, but really what this is going into is the way of the Lord being made known among all of the earth. And that's going into the teachings or the instruction of the Most High God, which you find in the law, statutes, and commandments. And this is going to be happening, while we're placed back on top above all the nations. All of the nations, they're gonna learn the law, statutes, and commandments, or the way of the Most High, from us, right? And that's gonna be a beautiful thing, as the brother said. But with that, I'll yield back to him.
All praises out the water for the add-ins, the precepts. And I'm gonna read the scripture the brother Pat put in the chat, and I put it on the screen. It says, "But thou, Israel, art my servant, Jacob, whom I have chosen, the seed of Abraham, my friend." In Isaiah 44:1. Yet now hear, O Jacob, my servant, and Israel, whom I have chosen. The water brother for the precepts also. And the water brother Aaron for the reading. And if anybody's tuned in that hasn't liked the video, if you could please go ahead and give us a like and a share. And the water to everybody that tuned in. All praise to the Most High, man. Barakatah. Guess that's all I got, brother.
God praise the beautiful lesson out.
And guess I end it by giving all praise, honor, and glory to the Most High God, Yahweh, in the name of His only begotten Son, whose name is Yahweh Shai. Brother, you can take us out.
We'll close it out with Numbers 6 and 24 and down. Yahweh bless thee and keep thee. Yahweh make His face shine upon thee and be gracious unto thee. Yahweh lift up His countenance upon thee and give thee peace. And they shall put my name upon the children of Israel, and I will bless them. And with that, I'll say shalom.
Shalom, Mark. Shalom, family.
Can't tell me nothing about life if you don't know pain. How you gonna try to coach if you don't know the game? You gonna get on the field and pick the wrong place. Instead of seeking help, you wanna do your own thing.
A little bit is the love and makes love. That's why I'm giving you all of my love, girl.
Thought I knew love, but you redefined it. Took me a while, but indeed I finally found it. Kisses and hugs keeping me reminded. Fake love in the past had me blinded.
So you can't counsel me cause I don't want the fame. I just wanna wake up my people and break the chain. You just wanna do what you feel, yeah. Because you're living in the lust of your flesh. The fear of God is knowledge, but fools despise instruction. They need a Bible college for wisdom. The Holy Spirit instructs me. Sucklings need milk they can't digest. They can't just unlearn, so they misinterpret John 3:16. Saying Christ died